The Pentagon is almost certainly the biggest source of waste in the U.S. government. A Reuters investigation says since 1996, the Pentagon has spent $8.5 trillion in taxpayer money that has never been accounted for. And nobody can say for sure how many billions of that amount were wasted on goods and services that were never delivered, on overpayments to contractors and many other things. What does Congress do about it? Nothing. And national security expert Steve Miles is here with me to help us crunch these numbers. $8.5 trillion unaccounted for?
It's a lot of money. This is the kind of thing that you would think would bring Capitol Hill to a screeching halt. There'd be hearings kind of almost daily. You'd have various committees looking into it. None of that. It just leads to massive waste, and there can be all sorts of fraud that you don't know about. Just one example, when the Inspector General looked at Iraq, which was, a lot of money, but in the grand scheme, just a portion of the money the U.S. spends. What they found was about $50 billion of the money the U.S. spent there was wasted. And about $6 billion was completely lost. They had no idea where it went. It was completely unaccounted for. But put that in perspective, that's about this amount of money that other countries would spend on their defense in a year total. And that's just the loose pocket change that we lost in the count.
What contributes to the massive waste is the fact that for 2 decades, the Pentagon has dodged an audit, which means nobody checked if the numbers in their accounting made any sense. Congress has just passed a budget that allocates around $630 billion to the Pentagon, roughly the same amount as last year. How much of that will be wasted? Taxpayers will never know. In Washington, I'm Ganesh Chekan, RT.
Hi there, I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
You're tuned into Video Radio, where we're talking about the fact that the Pentagon is wasting huge amounts of coin.
And it's not even being able to be audited because it's all for national security purposes.
Yeah, when they're refusing to audit, that there's a bit of a thing.
Yeah.
As if they're running it like a business. I remember there was a senator last month who said, you guys can't even give us a good audit and you expect us to trust you to run the wars overseas?
Well, I don't think that's quite possible. But, the U.S. has got to get out of this endless war strategy.
And, of course, there are people who are saying, man, you need to get out of this endless war strategy.
Yeah, David Swanson has a campaign, the campaign to end war. All war, everywhere. Check out this idea.
Now in the planning stages, with a launch date set for September 21, 2014, is a campaign to end war. Not the war on terror or the civil war in the Central African Republic, but all war, everywhere. As David writes, quote, in this case, I'm talking about a movement to end not this war or that war, but the institution of war as an acceptable enterprise for the human species. David, welcome back on the program. Let's talk about what could we do if we divest from the preparations for war and the war economy?
The thousands and thousands of lives that would be saved every year from not dumping that money into war becomes multiplied 10 or 100-fold in the lives that are saved by spending that money in other ways. And taking a fraction of the money the United States spends on militarism and spending it on preventing starvation, on providing clean water, on providing education and solar energy and wind energy and sustainable agriculture, schools, hospitals to the rest of the world for a fraction of the cost would make the United States not the most hated, not the most feared nation on earth as it is in polls now, but the most loved. And it would cost far less money and make us far more safe. So the wars endanger us. The wars provoke, the wars build arms races, the wars fuel violence. And yet we then see violence and dump further funding into that cycle, thinking we have to protect ourselves more. And it's an endless loop that you can't get out of, except by changing your thinking and saying no.
David, I know that I'm going to worldbeyondmorgue.org immediately after we publish this video to sign up and to engage myself and to offer my services. And I encourage everyone who's watching this program not just to go and sign that petition, but find a way to engage, to work towards a world without war. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much, David.
So I think that's a good idea. I think that would be money much better spent than on this endless war footing.
Well, they've got $79 billion in Canada for weapons we don't need. And they complain about $14 billion for healthcare. That, of course, is your conservative inaction.
Yeah. Well, you know, lately the director of national intelligence, James the Liar Clapper, has been going around trumpeting how dangerous the world is out there.
Because it's so dangerous.
You know, because there's toothpaste bombs for Sochi, and there's apparently a shoe bomber out there too, apparently. But case studies come up from the New American Foundation talking about how effective the NSA has been.
How effective has it been?
They have maybe stopped perhaps one case of terrorism. A cab driver apparently sent some money to somebody.
Yeah, this is what 300 billion will get you. Check it out.
When Edward Snowden first revealed the U.S. government's indiscriminate collection of every American's phone data, U.S. President Barack Obama defended the program, insisting that dozens of threats around the world have been averted, courtesy of the National Security Agency. NSA Chief General Keith Alexander claimed metadata collection has thwarted 54 different terrorism-related activities post 9/11. Now, unfortunately for the White House, a new study shows that the numbers they're using, well, they've been slightly inflated, because an analysis of 225 terrorism-related cases in the U.S. since the September 11th attack has found that the NSA's program has provided evidence for only one case. Now, the study by the national-based nonprofit New American Foundation has concluded the bulk collection of data by the NSA has had no discernible impact on preventing acts of terrorism. Researchers found that in the majority of post-9/11 terrorism-related cases, tips or evidence actually came from traditional law enforcement and investigative methods. Just last month, a task force appointed by the president himself also concluded that the NSA's counterterrorism programs are not essential to preventing attacks. Reporting from New York, Marina Portnaya, RT.
And so remember, CSEC, the RCMP, basically all of your guys here in Canada are wasting the same amount of money not catching people, but, you know, funding Facebook.
Well, you know, they got generate their intelligence somehow. I think that's called open source.
Military intelligence? I sense an oxymoron alert coming. So we really want you to go and check out the facts too. Remember, we do not make commercials that say trust us. We are not authorities. We're a couple random guys with a video camera.
And some opinions.
Yes. And my opinion is...
My opinion is Edward Snowden is not a traitor because he has exposed the inadequacy of the NSA and the programs they're running. And of course, there's been a bit of blowout from that. Yes. Apparently he's been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize.
I love this. Check it out.
Despite being disliked and called a traitor by some U.S. lawmakers, two politicians in Norway see NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden in a different light and have nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. The two politicians announced their nomination in a joint statement Wednesday, saying Snowden has contributed critical knowledge about how modern surveillance and intelligence directed towards states and citizens is carried out. Snowden's nomination comes as the White House pursues charges against the former NSA contractor related to the thousands of classified documents he leaked last year, like the newly published documents that revealed the NSA and British surveillance agency GCHQ had been collecting user data through mobile apps like Google Maps and Angry Birds. White House spokesman Jay Carney made it clear in December that there would be no amnesty for Snowden, saying,
"That's our position and it has not changed."
In their statement, the Norwegian lawmakers wrote they don't necessarily condone Snowden's actions, but that they credit him with starting an important conversation about security and privacy, which has contributed to a more peaceful world order. In case you are wondering, the governing body of the Nobel Peace Prize, the 5-person Norwegian Nobel Committee, ultimately selects the Nobel laureate, but nominations can be submitted by anyone who's won the prize before, members of national assemblies and governments of states, members of international courts, and even university professors. There were 256 candidates for the Peace Prize in 2013, so it's safe to say Snowden will have plenty of competition. Still, it would be slightly ironic if Snowden and President Obama both win just 5 years apart. Obama won the Peace Prize in 2009. Final nominations are due this Saturday, and the winner will be announced in October.
One of Mexico's top vigilante leaders claiming victory. Stanislao Beltran and his men say they, with the security forces, have liberated Apatzingan from the Knights Templar cartel. over a celebratory lunch near this key town in western Mexico, he tells me their fight and victory is a warning.
The government should worry about doing its job, because if not, at any given time in the near future, there's going to be an uprising that they won't be able to control.
On the surface, at least, it's clear things have changed in this market town. Just last month, all the shops here were virtually closed under threat from the Knights Templar cartel. But what's not clear is if the army, the police, and the vigilantes have actually taken this town back for good.
The president's point man says there's no question who's in charge.
The state is in control. The federal forces, army, federal police, local attorney general, and police chief all have a presence here. They're the ones in control.
Some are already questioning if such control comes at a cost. There have been dozens of complaints of human rights abuses against the federal police. Over the course of their battle, the vigilantes too have been accused of heavy-handedness. Their leaders are already looking to their next challenge. This bridge collapsed months ago, cutting off an important, shorter road to Patzingán.
We've rid ourselves of the Knights Templar, and now we need projects and businesses so that people can get good jobs.
Promises of a brighter future. Perhaps that's what the vigilantes are selling more than anything else. And that's a strong message in this poor corner of Mexico. Adam Rainey, Al Jazeera, Michoacán, Mexico.
Now, we do have one warning about this. If you do investigate and start being a journalist investigating the RCMP, you will have the urge to take those things into your own hand. We are decidedly saying don't.
Yeah, we suggest you not do that because,
just sue them, photograph them, stuff like that, because they are crabby.
And they have guns.
And they will shoot you and
tasers.
Get away with it. At any rate, I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
Always saying peace is going to rule, but we're going to rock while we do it. This is Video Radio. We're going to be covering protests as we videotape on Sunday.
Talking about what's come up in protests and other very interesting things that aren't being covered by the mainstream media.
So make sure you check our facts, use your intellect. We're trusted you to do that. And stay tuned for more after this lack of commercials.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. In this world there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate. We think too much and feel too little. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness. Without these qualities, life will be violent. And all will be lost. All will be lost. Do not despair. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. Dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Will return to the people. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world to do away with greed. Now let us fight to free the world, to fulfill that promise. Let us all unite. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel. Who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are men. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful. Let us use that power to make this life a wonderful adventure. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world to do away with greed. Now let us fight to free the world, to fulfill that promise. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world to do away with greed. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Do not despair, the hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Let us all unite!